In the previous lesson, we were able to show this table here with Antelope's name, color, age. But what if we wanted to show also the location and the type? If we take a look at the tables, I populated some records here for locations, like here you can see some antelope types. For example, Springboks, Impala, RX, Kudu. I added also some records for locations. You can see savanna, desert, grassland, and we also have now the antelopes connected to type and location. But if we read only from this table, we're gonna get the ID, type ID, location ID, but we don't have the name of these locations and these types. So we have to join this table with antelope types and antelopes locations. So let's take a look at the persistence layer again to see how we can join these two tables to the antelopes table. So here's the repository, and this is the main query. So we create an antelope query instance, and now from this query we can join the other two tables. I'm going to show you right away the way we can do that. If we added here antelope's entity and then chose this from these functions, you can see if we type join, we have different possibilities. We can call the join method and pass the relation, the join type, if we want it to be more explicit about what we want to join, the way we want to make this join, inner join, outer join, left join, right join. We can define all those types by using join. Or we can just call join with, and then we decide with what table we want to join this table. For example, we can join it with antelope location. We can configure some of the parameters. You can see here that criteria type, we can pass criteria inner join, that's the default one, or we can pass a left join, for example, if we always want all the antelopes, no matter what location, if we have a null on the location. Okay, but as we define those columns, antelope types and antelope locations as not null, so we're sure that we're gonna always have a record for that. And then we can also join. So we join here with antelope location. We can call join with, and then we select antelope type. All right, now we have the possibility not only to read the antelope type ID and the antelope location ID, but also the name of the location and the name of the type. In this case now, we have access to those properties. So let's give it a try. Let's go to our communication layer. And you can see here, I've defined a Spryker server here. So a PHP server with Spryker as host, port 80, and then I mapped my directory to /data so that we can debug with PHP Storm. Now we can set a breakpoint here to inspect this variable. So let's set a breakpoint. Let's listen also for connection. We can click here on this icon, start listening for a PHP debug connection. And now we can go back to the browser. I have installed this Xdebug plugin for Chrome that you can do the same thing. And then if I reload now the page, we should be able to go into the breakpoint. Okay, here we are. So now we can inspect the antelope variable. If we go a step ahead, we load the facade, then we're gonna go to create the reader. We're gonna return the repository to the reader. And finally, we have the antelopes here. So we can inspect these array objects. You can see here in the storage, and then we have 3 records. Let's take a look inside this one. And you can see here that we have the ID, the name, color, type, location, age, weight, and gender. As you can see, we don't have the antelope type, name and description, or antelope's location, name and description. Why? Because we're returning an array object of antelope transfer, and in antelope transfer we didn't define any field for either for location or type. So we have to define those types in the antelope transfer, and then we have to map also those fields in our mapper. So let's take a look at the code and let's implement this part so that we can return the antelope's type, name, and the location name's description. So here we have the for each loop to map every entity that we find into our collection. So let's take a look inside, and you can see here that we just called the from array, and we transform this Antelope entity to an array. But by doing this, we lose the fields that we have with the Antelope type instance and with the Antelope location instance. Let's take a look at the variable. So if we just type Antelope, and then you can see that if we navigate through the methods that we have available, you can see that we have get pyz Antelope location, and we have also get pyz Antelope type, and automatically we're going to have access to that data. So we can call get pyz Antelope location in order to have the data like name, description, and the same goes for type. But we need also to map that inside the Antelope transfer. So the first thing to do is to add the type and location to the Antelope transfer, and then we're going to populate that data here in the mapper. We're going to create also a mapper to map location transfer from location entity, Antelope type transfer to Antelope types entity to Antelope type transfer. So inside the share folder, we have the Antelope and then transfer. We can add those transfer inside the same file, or we can separate the Antelope type and Antelope transfer inside their own file, their own XML file. But we have few properties there, so we can use the same file to create the Antelope type and Antelope location transfer. So let's create it here, transfer, name, Antelope type, and let's give the properties that we need. If we take a look at the database, we can open the table, and you can see the columns that we have here. We have type name, description, ID, Antelope type, and the automatically created columns created at and updated at. So let's add type name. So we have to transform the underscore with camel case. So type name of type string. Then we can map also the description if we want to. And then we're going to map also the ID, Antelope, ID, Antelope type. All right, we have the three main columns, ID, name, and description. And then we can do the same thing for location. So Antelope type and now Antelope location. And here we add location, name, description is okay. We can take a look here at the columns. ID, Antelope location, and then we can add also latitude, and the type, it's going to be float because we have a float value inside. That's the type that we have to map into PHP. Double is not supported, I think. And we're going to do the same thing for longitude. Okay, we're not going to be working with created at, updated at. We have Antelope type and Antelope location. Now we can add in the Antelope transfer the property location, and it's going to be of type Antelope location. And then we do the same thing for type. We can also add we can call it a navigation property because we have the location ID, but this one is a navigation property in the sense that we can navigate the other properties that we have for type and location. Okay, so as you can see, now in the mapper, we have to map the location that we have here of type Antelope location from the PYZ Antelope location entity that we get with the getter that we already have access to in the mapper.